make some massive assumptions. The first one is that you can hear me. The second one is that the volume is okay. It looks like my audio might be coming from my webcam today, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because yesterday my audio was coming from my microphone in front of me and I was like blasting out very loudly. So hopefully this isn't too echoey, but I'm going to get straight to the point. So today's video is really based on personal experience. It's actually personal experience of me thinking about the last 24 hours. And it's a small thing that happened to me that made me think about some much bigger ideas. And that is 3 tips on how to maintain your peace of mind, or even regain your peace of mind if you lost your peace of mind. And today is the 17th of March, 2020. So if you're tuning in 2022, you know a lot more about the future than I do, because I'm only in the present. So, and if it hasn't messed your head about, I don't know what will. So what I'm going to be talking to you today, very, very briefly, is 3 top tips. Really, I guess I've learned recently, some of these things I've learned recently. Another one of these 3 tips I've really been trying to, what's the right word to use? I've been really thinking about a lot, and it's very easy to lose it. And you'll understand in a second. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and share my screen with you. Let's see if that works. And if it doesn't matter. I can just narrate anyway. So application window, there we go. I think this might actually be sharing a window which says 3 tips for maintaining peace of mind. So let's give this a go. I could even see if I can make this full screen. I don't know if that's going to work. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to try and do that because I might not be able to get back to this control screen. So 3 tips for maintaining peace of mind. So I've just put this together, and it's very, very simple. And if this is something you struggle with, having peace of mind, then I'm hoping that these 3 tips or ideas will serve you well. So the first one is the biggie. It is massive. And actually, perspective. What does perspective mean? Well, I always love to compare the difference between being an eagle soaring in the sky, riding on the thermal currents, versus a group of chickens on the ground, pecking around, flapping around, looking for something to eat. And the major difference is that the eagle has an amazing sense of perspective. And because it has that perspective, it can see things that the chickens can't see. So the chickens are scrabbling around looking for little bits of seed and things on the ground, and they've got a very limited field of view because they're just looking at the immediate surroundings. They're just looking in front of them, perhaps behind them, to the sides or whatever. Whereas the eagle, it can see maybe for 5 or 10 miles, maybe further on a clear day, and it has fantastic visual acuity. And its visual acuity gives it both depth of perspective as well as a broad perspective. And gosh, I mean, if you've got depth of perspective as well as a broad perspective, you can see things in a much bigger picture, then you're just going to be able to cope with life in a completely different way. Hi, Eric. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Yeah, well, let's hope this serves you, Eric, because it is easy to feel freaked out. Eric's tuning in from Twitter, so thanks very much for sharing those comments. So really, why am I not freaking out? What's the difference? Well, gosh, there's obviously some thoughts that some of us get when we get really stressed or worried, as opposed to when we have peace of mind. And those thoughts are really they're kind of like seeds, if you like, which then affect our emotions. So what thoughts do we need to have in order to maintain peace of mind? So really the idea is to capture new thoughts and see other thoughts that you've had about things in a completely different way. And I'm hoping these 3 tips I'm sharing with you will actually enable you to do that. So as I said to you, the first one that I shared with you is having a better perspective. And I talked about having a perspective in terms of depth and breadth. So what does that mean for you right now? If you're freaking out about the coronavirus and are you going to survive it and are you going to die? Well, the good news and the bad news is that all of us on this video at some point are going to walk through that door between life and death. Now, what happens next depends on what you believe. And certainly I have peace of mind because of what I believe, but you may or may not. But it's something that we all do face. My mum died last year. She lived a fairly healthy life for most of it, and she passed away. She moved on. She's moved on to the next adventure, as some people put it. I believe, obviously, she's in heaven because of my beliefs. But if you don't believe that, you might believe something else. But you must have some beliefs about what happens after death. So that actually really helps you to get a perspective on life, because, at the end of the day, we do worry about an awful lot of things that are outside of our control. And I would like to suggest to you that really that control, I'm just going to put myself back on camera again. We actually, as human beings, want to have some kind of sense of control, don't we? We want to think that if we take certain actions, that we're going to be able to control our future, our destiny, the outcome of our lives. And do you know what? To some extent, that's true. But it's only partially true. I mean, earlier on in this live, if you're just tuning in now, you may not remember this, but I shared with you about the difference between chickens scrabbling around on the ground, pecking at seeds. They have a certain perspective, they have a limited perspective, and an eagle rising up above the ground, riding on thermal currents, who has a much broader perspective and can see far and wide. So how do you get a different perspective on life? If you've got a certain perspective about how things are and how they're going to be and how they might end up, then there might be some things you can do to shift that, to become more like an eagle rather than a chicken. Okay, so obviously right now this is just me sharing on a live stream, so there's no way that I'm going to be able to kind of like take you from a place of absolute panic to an absolute place of absolute peace of mind just by me talking with you. You're going to have to do some homework. You're going to have to put some effort in. Now, I just want to share the context of why I'm even sharing this video. And that is because I lost perspective about something yesterday. And compared to what's going on in the world right now, you might think, Des, you really are completely bonkers thinking that way. And you're right, I was completely bonkers thinking that way. So let me just talk to you about why I'm sharing this video, because I lost perspective on something. And that is, at the moment, I'm doing a Facebook Live every day for the next 14 days because I'm part of a fantastic daily challenge called the 14-Day Challenge, where I put out something on the interwebs daily for the next 14 days, a live stream, some little bit of sharing some stuff, some practical tips and training. So if you want to check out facebook.com/DesFutak, that's where all the lives are. I am sharing some of them wider. So this one I'm putting on Restream, so it's going out to Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. And some of them I'm putting on LinkedIn as well, because I think they serve an even bigger audience. So what happened to me yesterday was, as I was thinking about doing these lives and growing my business, because I work from home, I run a business from home, and it doesn't really depend on me meeting people face to face. So I was wanting to grow my business, and I was wanting to do that anyway, even before this coronavirus really just took over everything. And so I thought, well, I've got various administration things I have to do as part of my business, and it's like the most boring thing I had to finish for my accountant, and I was finishing off my accounts. I'm about 95% of the way there, so if my accountant's tuning in, you'll get them very, very shortly. So I've very nearly finished. But I was getting really fed up with this because I hate doing it. I hate administration. I'm not really that strong at it. It's kind of one of my weak areas, and that's why I have an accountant to take care of it for me, but I still have to prepare my accounts to give to the accountant. And this was just taking too long. And the longer it took, the more frustrated I was getting with the fact that it was taking too long. You can see my pattern of thinking here, can't you? How kind of crazy I was. And then I was getting grumpy because I didn't want it to be there. I just wanted it to be out of the way because I wanted to get on my live streams. I wanted to get on with, growing my business and prospecting people on LinkedIn and recruiting and all the things that I like to do in my business. But I couldn't do that because I'd spend so much time on my accounts. And so I completely lost perspective. I just thought, I don't want to talk to anybody now because I'm just too grumpy. Now, that is a kind of a funny example, isn't it? It's a kind of a trivial example compared to what's going on in the world right now. But if you think about it, although that's a set of thoughts on a very small consequence, like I'm grumpy, so I'm not going to talk to anyone. But can you see how that there are certain thoughts in there which kind of laid the kind of the foundations for what I call stinking thinking? All right, stinking thinking is what leads to loss of peace of mind. So we all have stinking thinking in certain areas of our lives, and half the time we don't know that it's there, but we only know it's there when it manifests itself. And it usually manifests itself in our emotions or in the way that we treat other people. Okay. And so this morning, when I was thinking about it, when I woke up this morning, I thought it's a brand new day. This day has never happened before. I have no idea what's going to happen today. And if you're kind of like wondering where I get that state of mind from, watch one of my other YouTube lives, or Facebook lives rather. I think it was number 1 or 2, which was to do with how to deal with uncertainty. And you'll see what kind of like groundwork I put in my mind in order to feel that way, to actually not be worried about uncertainty, not to be concerned about the future, because of that bit of my perspective I have got right, I believe, because I can, I might die tomorrow, and it's okay. I mean, it'd be sad for my family. It'd be sad for my sons and my daughter and my dad. I don't want to die. I want to live to be 100. I want to get fitter as I get older. My vision, which is really what leads back into this perspective bit. My vision is, as I get older, I want to become more productive, more fruitful, more helpful to society, more useful to God, more actually that the life that I've lived matters. And I take my inspiration from some old people that I know, and I don't class myself as old yet. I'm in my early 50s, but a couple of old people that I know, I won't name them because I might get embarrassed, because I think, well, I'm not old. Well, you are. One of them's nearly 90. The other one's in their mid 80s. One of them's a lady. One of them's a man. And both of those people are they are phenomenal in terms of their character. They are not worried about anything. They're serving other people 10 years younger than them. They're going into old people's homes. They're sharing in the community. They're just making themselves useful to society, and their old age hasn't stopped them. And they are just bundles of energy. And that's what I want to be like when I'm old. So I didn't have that perspective until I met those people. And that comes onto my bonus point number 4, because I'm going to give you a bonus as well. So sometimes in life, getting a different perspective really depends on the relationships that we have around us. And so it's important to cultivate and grow relationships where you can get inspired, where you can suddenly see things in a different way, because it's quite hard to do that on our own, isn't it? We tend to kind of spy around in our little headspace, don't we? So that's number 1, having a different perspective. So the eagle has the advantage it can see a much bigger picture. So you need to ask yourself, how can I put myself in a frame of mind where I can see my situation as part of a much bigger picture, and how can I have an effect on the world in a good way? Because at the end of the day, there's 2 ways to deal with the current crisis that we're in. One is to kind of like do this and just go like that and kind of like, I want to survive. And the other one is to figure out ways that you can connect with other people to serve them and help them. And, it's the TEAM, isn't it? Together, everyone achieves more. And an entrepreneur I've just bumped into this morning actually set up a Facebook group with that title, Together Everyone Achieves More Team, because she really wants people to figure out ways that we can work together right now. And really what you can do, you could start one of those if you like. You don't have to wait for somebody else to create one. You could create it yourself, because you have immense value, because you are an incredible person. As Gary Vaynerchuk says, there's a 1 in 330 trillion to 1 chance against you even being alive. So the fact you're here is a miracle. And if that's a miracle, then every day is a miracle. And that is a completely different way to look at life, isn't it? Rather than thinking about, am I going to be able to get enough food to survive the next 14 days or 21 days or 6 months or a year or whatever, rather than thinking like that, it's like, how can I figure out ways to connect with other people in the area where I live, or the people around me, either virtually or face-to-face, or just via WhatsApp or whatever? What things can I do to figure out ways to bring value and help other people and connect with people and be of value to others? So that enables you to have a completely different, much broader perspective. And the other thing I'm not going to really touch on in this video is how to have a depth of perspective, because the eagle both can see far and wide, and it has amazing visual acuity, much better than me. I need 3 pairs of glasses. So how do you develop depth of perspective? Well, I would say that's tip number 4, which is the bonus tip. So let me go back to my screen share again, and I'm going to go on to the next tip, because the first one I've spent about 15 minutes on perspective. I was going to spend about 3 minutes, but there we go. Second one then. Self-awareness. Self-awareness is incredibly important. And, I didn't really even, I knew that word existed, self-awareness. I knew it existed, but it wasn't until I started watching some videos by Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary, as in Gary, Vaynerchuk, Vaynerchuk. Now, Gary V, as he likes to call himself, practically every other word is the F-bomb word. So if you don't like people swearing, you ain't going to like Gary Vee. But if you can move past all the swearing, because he was brought up in a very rough part of New York. He was a Russian immigrant. His parents didn't speak English when he got there. He had a tough childhood, but boy, is he figuring out ways to give back. And it was Gary Vee who really put me onto the whole idea of self-awareness. And what he means by self-awareness is literally what I've just said. You know, when I think about how I was getting grumpy because I had to do something really boring with my accounts and I didn't want to do it. And then I thought, oh, this is getting away what I really want to do. And rather than just like figuring out a way to finish it off and get it done, I then just started getting like annoyed. And so I lost perspective about that thing I had to do. And then it became a much bigger thing, and it's taken a lot longer to do it because I lost perspective. Now, what I've just described to you is my self-awareness. So the sum total of all those thoughts, those train of thoughts, that ability to kind of trace back, well, why am I thinking that way? What is it that made me think that way? What thought started that all off? So it's a bit like, you know, when you're 5 or 6 years old and you keep asking the why question. Why is the sky blue? Why this? Why this? Why this? Why? So give yourself the question, why is it I think that way? What is it that caused me to think that way? And trace it back. There'll usually be one big idea or one main controlling thought, which has led to that kind of like snowball of other thoughts, which lead to a change or a loss of perspective. And the ability to have self-awareness enables you to see that. Now, you can't see it at the time you're in it, but part of self-awareness is to be aware that you've lost your perspective when you have actually lost your perspective. Okay. So if you can develop that self-awareness, even when you've lost your peace of mind or whatever, then you're more likely to be able to kind of like do a bit of what I call soul cleaning and or soul caring. I prefer to use the word soul care, where you're actually looking after your soul. You're actually looking after your thoughts. You're thinking, okay, where do those little thoughts come from? There's an old saying which goes, catch the little foxes before they destroy the crops or before they spoil the crops. It's actually taken from Song of Solomon. And the whole idea about that is, you know, we have little tiny thoughts or ideas which can kind of mushroom and snowball and grow out of control. And so one of the things we can do when we get better self-awareness is learn how to be good catchers of the little foxes so they don't destroy the crops. Okay, I'm not going to deal very long on that one, but I hope you get the idea. So let's go on to the next one, point number 3. Okay, I spent about 10 minutes on perspective and only one on self-awareness, but anyway, let's crack on. So the next one I want to share with you, and this is officially my final one, but it isn't really. Let me just see if I can find it. Is ration the news. So this one's practical. Okay, so rationing the news. Now let's just think about why the news exists. There's 2 reasons why does the news exist. The first reason is to inform us. So you could just go onto the World Health Organization website and that's it. You could use that as your sole source of news, and maybe the news of your country, the official news. Like I use the BBC News quite a lot because it's pretty accurate. Some people say it's not brilliant, but it's certainly less polemical than some of the broadsheets or the tabloids, which have got a much stronger political agenda. So I ration the news. I have to admit, about 1 or 2 weeks ago when this started, I could see the kind of the hockey stick happening in terms of the number of cases of the coronavirus. I started getting a bit obsessed about the news, and I started tuning in and spending maybe an hour or 2 hours a day on it. And that's crazy. Can you imagine how much that messes up your perspective on life? So what I suggest you do, because I think it is important to find out what's going on, but I suggest you set aside a certain time of day when you say, I'm going to be disciplined here. I'm only going to watch or listen to the news at this time of day, and you could probably get all the information you need about what you need to do and what's going on in about 5 to 10 minutes. Wow, wouldn't that be amazing if all of us around the world managed to do that? I reckon the shops would still be full of toilet rolls and the essential products that everyone stripped off the shelves, because people wouldn't have lost perspective. They wouldn't have panicked. They would have said, well, yeah, this is what I need to do. We just need to get on with it. We need to figure out ways to help each other. We'll get through this, okay? But because what happens is to do with the part of the brain called the limbic system, which is your kind of, I suppose it's your fight or flight center. It does a lot more than that. But one of the things it does is it's a survival thing. So like a computer that very quickly assesses whether or not there's a threat or an opportunity. And quite often it gets it wrong, or it doesn't see the whole picture. So there's actually 4 major kind of operational centers of our brains, and together, when they work in harmony, great stuff happens. But when they work against one another, like if the limbic system takes over and becomes your driving, controlling thing, that's when people tend to panic. So even understanding that can help you actually develop a new perspective, because once you understand that that's real, that's a real thing, it's a good thing to have a limbic system. Otherwise, we go up to a lion, stroke its head, and if it bit a hand off, we go, oh, have the other hand, and we die. So having the limbic system is very good for fight or flight, but it's not very good for making much higher order level decisions. And so having perspective and self-awareness can help us do that. So really attempt as much as you possibly can to discipline how much you actually spend watching the news every day. So ration the news. So I could stop there. Obviously, I could say that's enough. Those are my top 3 tips. But actually, I've got a 4th tip, because I think the 4th tip is probably the most important one of all, and it's pretty obvious, isn't it? We as human beings thrive by being together. We don't do so well when we're on our own. So obviously right now, governments around the world are telling us to self-isolate. However, we live in the 21st century, and right now the most amazing thing is I can communicate with you and you can communicate with me. We can do it via text, we can do it via LinkedIn, we can do it via Facebook, YouTube. We've got so many ways. WhatsApp, we can phone each other up. We have got amazing opportunity to figure out ways to build community in a way that people even 20 years ago didn't have. I mean, just think about it. In 2 decades right now, we are the most connected we've ever been in our history. So if this is one opportunity to figure out ways to build community in the midst of this crisis, then I would say take advantage of that. Figure out ways you can offer value, you can provide value, you can communicate with others and build community. And see that as a really positive opportunity, because it is a fantastic opportunity to perhaps build new relationships with people that you've never done before. I don't know if this is an old saying, but it's certainly true. When the Second World War happened back in the 39 to 45 war, people came together in ways that they'd never done before. And right now the world is in crisis, and to be honest, this is mild compared to that war, but it's big enough that it's affecting the whole world. So why don't we try and ask ourselves, what can I do to actually build community with others, to have relationships? Because I don't know if you remember, about 20 minutes ago, I shared how there were 2 people that I'd come across in my life, one an 85-year-old, another nearly 90, and they had heavily changed my perspective about old age. And now I see old age as a wonderful thing. Now, I don't know if I'm going to live to be 90 or 100. I'd like to be. I don't know if I'm going to get there. But if I do, I'm aiming, my vision, if you like, is to become like those 2 people, or a kind of a Des Futak equivalent of those 2 people, because I see them as serving selflessly, just caring about people in ways that I don't yet care about people. And that inspires me to become a better person, because at the end of the day, if we just live our lives for ourselves, we're living a very impoverished, poor existence. Whereas if we figure out ways to serve the community and build community, and I'm preaching to myself here in the mirror, and I know I'm probably preaching to the choir as well, but it is a challenge, isn't it? But it's something that's incredibly rewarding. I spoke to a guy yesterday who has a background in the financial services industry, but he has a passion for doing volunteering work and helping people with mental illness. And, he wants to help people who are feeling suicidal and all sorts, which is amazing. I thought, wow, you're ahead of me. You're way ahead of me. And he's maybe only 2/3 or half my age. And I thought, what a fantastic vision. So, I said about the eagle at the beginning of this video. If you're just tuning in at the end of this video right now, then just watch on replay and go back to the bit where I talked about the eagle. Because the thing about the eagle is it's got amazing visual acuity. It can see fine detail as well as broad picture. And so the way you get that visual acuity in your life is to have a vision. And I don't mean just like a vision of something grand. I just mean have a sense of purpose and a direction and a vision in your life. And that's a topic for another video. I can't really cover that now. But anyway, if any of this has been useful to you and you just want to connect with me and find out what I'm doing in life at the moment, then please do just message me on whatever platform you're on. I suggest you don't use Twitter to message me. Pop onto Facebook, facebook.com/DesFutax, probably the best way to get in contact with me, because I do check my Facebook reasonably often. I don't tend to check Twitter direct messages hardly ever. If you're obviously on LinkedIn, because I'll post this video on LinkedIn, then do message me on LinkedIn. Just give me some feedback on this video. If it served you well today, then please do pass it on to others if it's going to help them. Because I think it is really important that we figure out ways to have peace of mind, because when we've got peace of mind, then it just changes everything, really, in my view. So I hope this has served you well. This has been Des Futak signing off, and I will come back to you tomorrow with another video. All right, speak to you soon. Bye.